Okay, so we're ready to do the coloring on our big, what do you call it, cartoon enlargement. So this is an example of a finished one. And what we're really going to hone in for this lesson is not just coloring like a coloring book, but starting to layer our colors. So can you see in this particular drawing that we have, obviously it's kind of yellowy, right? But in this yellow, we've actually layered in some green, and we've layered in some brown, and in this brown here, we've layered in different browns. On the blue here, there's actually white that's been layered and rubbed on top of the blue. So we're trying to get those layers in. On the tree, we've thrown in some orange in there. Yeah, the leaves, there's a couple greens in there. So we're gonna work on doing that. And even on, like, okay, let me go to this. See right here, we have the red, but we've also thrown on actually a little bit of green and a little bit of darker, lightly some black. And that's helped to shade it. We have pressed down harder here and not as hard here. So yeah, playing with those nuances. So you ready to go? In the background, same thing. There's blues and violets and some white in there. So we want to layer. Okay, so let me set this back over to the side and let's talk about it. Now, one thing, your coloring pencil packet has about 12 pencils in it. My packet has, I'm sorry, it has 24, I think. Yeah, I've got 24. But I do have premier colors, so I'm really excited about that. So you lay your pencils out. Let me get some color on the scene. Wow, that's really, really bright. Okay, so when you go ahead and layer, pencils out here. Let me just play with it. You might want to play with it on the side and just have a go at messing around with it before you put it on your actual paper. I want to tell you about colored pencils. Do not put colored pencils in a pencil sharpener. It will just, you'll lose it. Pencil sharpeners just eat these things. So you want a good old hand pencil sharpener in which you can control it. And that way you're not going to have your pencil get completely eaten. All right, let's just try a yellow. So I'm gonna put a yellow swath down. I'm gonna press really hard. See how vivid that is? And then I'm going to lighten it up. And I'm gonna play with pressure. Let's see, can you see that? The lighting may not be great. Let me try this, let's see if that, whoa, that's really intense. Sorry. Okay. No? I guess we'll stick with the first one. Yeesh. Okay. Maybe I'll go down a little bit. Okay. So off to light and down to dark. Okay, now I'm gonna grab a white. Oh, that got too sharpened. I don't usually make them that long. I've had some help in my... Okay. Let's play with that, see what it does. You probably can't see this on the camera. It actually softens it. I softened it a little bit. It was interesting. Okay. Layer with blue. Can you see how it's actually kind of looking green? You can take your yeah, now I have green, even though I have blue and yellow. I can grab green. And it's gonna, let me get this darker. I'll go ahead and just make a swath, but play with pressure. Pressure is very important. You can completely shade it out, make it really light when you just don't push down as hard. So that's an actual green made with the blue and the yellow. And this is a green with the yellow. I'm just gonna use my finger to blend it a little bit. And I can also take my white to kind of blend it out a little bit. Okay, so they're more intense, but it still looks green. So you think about basic color mixing, and I'm not sure that if you know this, but I'm gonna guess you do because you're old enough. The primary colors are yellow, red, and blue. Remember that? Those are primaries. Okay, so that's that. In between those, red and yellow make, and I'm going to dash the line, orange. Yellow and blue make green. And red and blue make violet, not purple, okay, violet. Now with these, you can then play with the nuances of yellow-orange. You can play with yellow-green, blue-green. These are called tertiary colors. So we have primary colors and secondary colors. There's 3 primary colors. There's 3 secondary colors, but there are 6 tertiary colors. And these are listed primary color first and then secondary. So you will never on a crayon see that you have a, hopefully you will never see that you have a green-blue. It should always be listed blue and then green, blue-green. And here we have blue-violet, not violet-blue, right? Blue-violet. And here we have red-violet. Remember your crayons, just remember your crayons, red-orange. And so you have this orange, but it's rather red. It's bent towards the red side. You have this orange, but it's bent towards the yellow side. And you know, you keep going around. Think about the primary color. It is a primary color, but it's, again, it's more bent towards the green. All colors are on this kind of spectrum between, you know, between these. So it can actually be a rather, it can be orange, but maybe not as yellow, whereas if you put 50-50, it's going to be very yellow-orange. So anyway, it's all in how you layer it or mix it, when you, especially when you go to do paints. All right, so right here, when I did the yellow and then I added the green on top, what I've made is a yellow-green here. But when I added the blue onto the yellow, what I got was a green here. Okay, I hope you're following. This makes sense. So you can actually make your own colors. You don't have to just grab what's in the kit. You can put a green down. Let's play with green and let's add some blue to it. So I'll put some green down. These Prismacolors have a waxy content to them, so they blend better than if you were just to grab like a basic Crayola school grade pencil. Those are great for, you know, just kind of little projects now and then, but you can actually blend these. Now, Prismacolor does make an actual blender with a special tip. It's kind of a clear tip. What it is it's the waxy bit of the inside core without the pigment, without the color. So it's kind of a clear substance, and it helps you blend. But it costs a little extra. I didn't have enough to get you a blender, so I would use your white to go ahead and blend those out. It shouldn't distract it too much. Of course, you can always kind of use your finger and just kind of, but there I have a blue-green. It's actually in person perfect. I look in the camera, I'm not so sure you can see it as well, but it is this, it's a nice blue-green. If you feel you need to add more green, and vice versa. So you can layer. Let's look at darkening it. I say that, where's my black? Okay. So let me shade. I'm going to go very faintly over the green with my black. And that's going to make it look shaded. I'll go over my blue-green. And now I have a shaded look. I can go over my yellow. And again, I'm light. I'm going very, very light. And I'm going to get it. It's going to look dark. You can throw brown on a color. Don't hesitate to throw brown on a color. You can shade with brown. It's not as intense as the gray, especially if you're doing something that's natural. So like, let's say you had a blade of grass and you want to make it darker. You can always throw a brown on it and it's going to make that green look rather, you know, rather grassy. Okay, so it has a nice appeal to it versus the black. It's just a little more organic. So when you go ahead and fill in the cartoon, look at, hopefully you have a color copy of your cartoon, or you could find one so that you can look at it and then mix from there. If you don't, you can go with the black and white, but you're gonna have to try to make up what color goes where. So it's a little easier if you have that. One thing I want to point out is if there is a real light white space, you can leave it. Not all of the cartoon gets colored in, so. All right, let me know. Try to layer, try to at least have 2 colors you're working with. There will be areas where it's just a pure color, but make sure, what I really don't want to see you do is this little number where you're just coloring like a 2-year-old. Please try to color directionally. If there's kind of like a pool of an area, or like Garfield. Okay, so when you go to do, let's say this was, let me see. Let's say I have, forgive me if I'm doing his feet wrong. I haven't studied Garfield too much, but let's say you were doing the bottom of his feet and you're throwing in that orange. Okay, so I'm pressing hard where there might be darker, like shading between the toes. And then I'll go light. I'm gonna get lighter on the top because the light is gonna hit on the top. Darker down below. Do you see how my strokes go with the foot? If I were to go flat like that, it's gonna make the foot look like it got smashed by something, like he kicked his foot in. So as I'm going through, I'm making sure that my coloring marks are in the direction of how the toe would bend. Okay, so that's very important. Directionality, is that a word? Directional strokes are very important. Okay, so now I'm not gonna bother not to waste your time, but go ahead and do that. Now, I know that orange is made out of red and it is made out of yellow. So where there's a highlight, I'm going to split it and go ahead and just put a little bit of yellow in there just to kind of give it a lighter look. So I'm splitting that orange into its pieces, and so I'm just throwing a little bit of yellow on the highlight part. I can, of course, put in some white with my yellow. And then if I really wanted in the toe, I can go a little darker. I can throw even in some red to make it a little more intense down there. And then of course, if I wanted to too, I could just go ahead and make sure this is black, yeah. I could go ahead and throw in some black. So that is how you layer, and it's just gonna come out just way more with some pop. If you think you don't like it too much, like, oh, it's just so yellow, then just go back over and throw in some more orange. That's okay. All that stuff that you put under is gonna look really good. You can always rework it. Just go light to begin with, okay? And just keep playing with it, but you're going to make those layers are what's going to make it look very adultish and, professional actually. Okay, so think about your directions. Don't just scribble. You can kind of even, I'd almost prefer that if you were to scribble that you're going in circular motions. That can come off looking so much more even than if you scritch one way, scritch another, scritch, 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 and leave some holes even. This is a much more smooth look than that. Okay. All right. Well, let me know if you have any questions. That is what we're hoping to do. We have 2 weeks to do this, so don't panic. I know it's a lot to color in, but my plan is that you budget your time and you're doing half this week and half the next, whatever that looks like. Okay, you decide. But next week's homework is to continue to color. Okay. Take care.